you for joining us for the Dental Board of California quarterly board meeting. My name is Dr. Thomas Stewart, and I am the president of the board. Today is Friday, July 24th, 2020. This board meeting is being held via WebEx. Pursuant to the provisions of Governor Newsom's Executive Order N2520, dated March 12, 2020, neither a public location nor teleconference locations are provided for this meeting. For all those who wish to participate, please log on to the WebEx website provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided on the agenda. The preferred audio connection is via telephone conference and not the microphone and speakers on your computer. The phone number and access code will be provided as part of your connection to the meeting. I want to ask all of us to please turn our cell phones to silent. Since this meeting is being conducted via WebEx, I will ask all board members and speakers to announce themselves by name before speaking for clarity of the official record. All board members are able to unmute themselves to speak during the meeting. Please place yourself back on mute when not speaking to reduce background noise for all participants. Following such online meeting etiquette will ensure the best audio quality for everyone. During each call for comments from board members and speakers, we will ensure that all comments that can be accommodated are heard before proceeding with the agenda. This is an official business meeting of the Dental Board of California. The board welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comments prior to the board taking action on any agenda item. The Dca Moderator will explain the process for providing public comments shortly. When called upon, the moderator will unmute the microphone of the individual and they will have 2 minutes to make public comment. The host will audibly announce when 10 seconds remain to conclude the public comment. After the 2 minutes have lapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute. Only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. Depending on the number of people who would like to testify on a particular agenda item, a time limit may be imposed. We ask all speakers to please stay on topic and not repeat testimony already provided. If you agree with the testimony already provided, please just state your name and that you are in support of any comments previously provided. I would now like to ask the Dca Moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during this WebEx meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the moderator. And to facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. The moderator will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. At the conclusion of the 2 minutes, the individual's microphone will be muted, and we will move on to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the board. Such inquiries submitted using this feature will not be answered. When asking your question, please make sure the question is directed to all panelists in the drop-down. Also, if any attendees utilize a profane name, they will not be called upon to prevent members of the public from being subject to profane language. While you are free to express criticism or negative views, for the sake of the members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments to the board. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when board members or senior staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphones. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder. And that is the conclusion of my comments, Mr. President.
Thank you. So I would like to call the meeting to order and ask the board secretary to please call the roll.
Good morning. This is the board secretary, Joanne Pacheco, and I will now call the roll. Burton?
Here.
Burton present. Chan?
Present.
Chan present. Felsenfeld? We'll circle back. Lai?
Here.
Present. Lai present. Laren?
Here.
Laren present. Mackenzie?
Here.
Mackenzie present. Medina?
Present.
Medina present. Morrow?
Morrow present.
Morrow present. Olagi?
Here.
Olagi present. Pacheco is present. Stewart?
Stewart present.
Stewart present. You?
You present.
You present. Felsenfeld?
I'm here. Too many mute buttons. Sorry.
Felsenfeld
Felsenfeld.
present. Dr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. And now we will move on to agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the May 14, 2020 and June 5th, 2020 Dental Board of California meeting minutes. I would like you to note that staff has requested that I table the May 14, 2020 meeting minutes until the August meeting. Therefore, at this time, the board will only be considering the June 5th, 2020 meeting minutes. Regarding those minutes, is there any board member discussion? Hearing none. Is there a motion and a second? Please unmute your phone, identify yourself, and then make a motion or a second.
This is Steve.
Minutes
As presented.
Fran Burton, second.
Dr. Stewart, this is Karen. I would like to interject. We're going to be using the hand feature. So let's use the hand feature for both motions and seconds also, please.
Thank you, Karen. So thank you. The motion is made to accept the June 5th meeting minutes.
I did.
Are there any board member comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments?
This is the moderator, and thank you, Mr. Board President. I will go ahead and open up the question and answer feature. All right, the question and answer feature is now available. If you are a member of the public and you wish to make a comment at this time, please do so by typing "I would like to make a comment" in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submitting it to all panelists. If you do not see the Q&A panel, go ahead and click on the question mark within a square at the bottom middle of your screen, and we are displaying instructions for your reference. We will give you a moment to access this feature. This is the moderator, and Mr. Board President, I am seeing no requests for public comment at this time. Would you like me to close the question and answer panel?
Yes, thank you.
I will do so.
Thank you. And Board Secretary, will you please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item?
This is Joanne Pacheco, Secretary, voting roll call. Agenda item number 2, motion approval of the June 5th, 2020 Dental Board of California meeting minutes. Motion by Chan, seconded by Burton. And I will now call the roll. Burton?
Yes.
Burton, aye. Chan?
Aye.
Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Lai? Lai?
Yes.
Lai, aye. Laren? Aye. Laren, aye. Mackenzie?
Yes.
Mackenzie, aye. Medina?
Aye.
Medina, aye. Morrow?
Morrow, I.
Morrow, aye. Olagi?
Yes.
Olagi, aye. Pacheco, aye. Stewart? Stewart?
I'm sorry, Stewart, yes.
Stewart, aye. You?
You, yes.
You, aye. Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. We will now move on to We will now move on to agenda item 3, the board president's report. So today's meeting is largely focused on the board's role to focus on, again, statistics and trends regarding updates pertaining to our licensing statistics. This gives us the opportunity to identify areas where there may be opportunities to improve our service to the public that we serve. As president of the Dental Board of California, it is my privilege to stay in close communication with our executive officer and senior staff. I am constantly impressed by the quality of the work and by their willingness to look at any opportunities to better our work efforts. The team they have assembled stays focused on providing that best service and listening to all stakeholders' concerns. It is a pleasure to work with and support that effort to enhance this important work. I would like to give a shout out to the class of 2020. I would also like to acknowledge the very, very collaborative efforts of those who work to create a pathway for licensure in these very trying times. Thank you, Dean Frederickson, for representing the deans on this work. Thank you, CDA, Mary McCune. Thank you to our working partners, ADEX and the REB agencies, for their proactive work in overseeing these past number of years to establish a means to address competencies at a time when not possible to bring patients as part of that licensing experience. We welcome this class of graduates and wish you all the success you deserve as you move into your future. We will continue to focus on developing our next strategic plan, and we will be communicating with the appropriate staff at the Consumer Affairs to determine if that exercise will be an in-person event or a WebEx experience. So it is good to stay connected via teleconference, and we will all look forward to a time when we can work together in the same room. Thank you for the privilege of working with each one of you. That is my report, and I will now refer to the Executive Officer, Ms. Karen Fisher, for her report. Thank you.
Dr. Stewart, did you want to ask if there's any public comment on your comments?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, are there any board member comments? I see Abigail Medina's hand up.
I'm sorry, that was from earlier. I think I left it up. All right, I'll remove it. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. And seeing none, how about public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. This is the moderator. I will go ahead and open the question and answer panel. Okay, the question and answer panel is now available. If you would like to make a public comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" in the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions on the screen and we'll give you a moment to access this feature. If you do not see it, please click on the icon with the question mark in the lower bottom of your screen. Thank you. All right, this is the moderator and Mr. Board President. I am seeing no requests for public comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, and thank you. Yes.
All right, I will do so. And also a reminder, people who are not talking at this time, please mute your microphones. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to agenda item number 4, the Executive Officer's Report.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. This is Karen Fisher, Executive Officer of the Dental Board of California, and good morning, everybody. I'm going to briefly give you an update on the topic of the year, seems to be COVID. And just a reminder that in response to COVID-19 and the governor's shelter-in-place order, board staff were sent home to telework the week of March 16th. On March 20th, due to recommendations and guidance from local and state health officials to help prevent the spread of the virus, our building closed to the public. Although the building was closed, our employees continued to do the work as they would normally on a daily basis. However, they conducted their work from home. Phone calls were returned from those leaving messages, and the work continued. Following a detailed risk assessment and the development and implementation of a COVID-19 prevention plan, the office reopened to the public on June 15th. The board has not experienced any significant workload, backloads, or interruptions to daily business during this challenging time. And this is a huge shout out to staff because it has not been an easy process for either my management team or our staff. Thank you to everybody for their huge effort. On April 30th, the Department of Finance issued Budget Letter 2011 that directs all agencies and departments under the direct authority of the governor to take immediate action to reduce current year expenditures. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, the state anticipates a severe drop in economic activity, resulting in a significant decrease in state revenues, necessitating the need for immediate action. Although the board is special funded, meaning that we do not get any money from the general fund, and that our revenue comes from licensing and permits, we were asked to decrease our expenditures. Also, the governor has borrowed $5 million from the board's account, and it will be paid back in the future. Immediate actions include halting the purchase of any new goods or services unless necessary to combat COVID-19 or to support teleworking. The budget letter also enforces the continued cancellation of all non-essential travel. Additionally, it provides a directive for departments to use discretion when filling vacancies and assessing staff needs to focus on filling those essential positions. And I will address that further in my personnel report, which will follow soon. The governor has requested boards continue to utilize telework contracts for 75% of the workforce, at least through the end of the year. And the dental board is in compliance with this guidance. We have, for those employees that do come in, they social distance, they wear a mask, they pick up work, they go home and they do the work, and then they come back to drop that off and to pick up new work. We do also have support staff who are in the office on a daily basis. They are also adhering to our COVID-19 prevention plan. We're social distancing, wearing masks, and washing hands frequently. As a result of the state's fiscal crisis, effective July 1st, state employees are docked 2 days per month pay. In exchange for this, employees will earn 2 days per month personal leave, which will be taken at the employee's discretion and with management approval. Moving forward now into my personnel report, since April 1st, we have filled 13 vacancies. And so essentially during this time when most of our staff are teleworking, we continue to hire new people and onboard them. And so far, if you can imagine coming to a new job where most of your colleagues are not in the office, There's some challenges in that, but so far, I think that our onboarding process is being as successful as it can be during this time, and we welcome those new people that have come on to join our dental board family. We currently still have 14 vacancies remaining, and we are in the process of continuing to conduct interviews and fill those positions as quickly as possible. During this time, we also have done major renovations to our suite. Over the past few weeks, the dental board has undergone construction to connect a number of suites together into one big suite. We started this process on June 25th, and we finalized it actually today, probably. Construction was conducted at night, so there was no disruption to our daily work, and walls were demolished. We had new paint, we had new carpet, we had new vinyl in places where there was vinyl. The reception area is now relocated, so as soon as you come in through the security gate at the front of our building, the dental board's main entrance now is right there on the left. So we were up front, and people will not have a difficult time finding our suite. It's given us a feeling of being in a new facility. All these essentially tenant improvements were paid for by the owner of the building. The board currently pays $27,890 per month for rent, and we added an additional 2,400 square feet to the suite, and so now our total square footage is just over 18,000 square feet, and we have been paying the cost of about $1.75 per square foot. And so with addition of this space, we are expecting that our rent then will be increased to $195 per square foot, which is still a really good rate, at least in the Sacramento area. So beginning in September, the monthly rent will be about $35,800 per month for the next 4 years. So we're in a 4-year hard contract with an additional 4-year soft contract following that. Also during this time, I'd like to report that the director has done an excellent job with communicating to board and bureau executive officers. We have regular meetings with the director, who is conveying not only the governor's appreciation for our work, but keeping us apprised of the latest information that is put out by the governor. We try to make sure that we also have the latest information on the board's website. I attended the Dental Hygiene Board meeting via WebEx on May 29th, and Dr. Martinez and Executive Officer Anthony Lum will likely report on the events that occurred during that meeting. As I mentioned, we had a number of meetings with the director since our last board meeting. On June 25th, Dr. Felsenfeld and I had a telephone conference on the dental board orientation. This meeting is usually held in person when newly appointed board members join our family, but due to COVID-19 and the governor's request to eliminate non-essential travel, this orientation was conducted via telephone conference. And lastly, on July 26th, Sarah Wallace, our Assistant Executive Officer, and I had a meet and greet over the phone with Carrie Holmes, the newly appointed Department of Consumer Affairs Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations, and you'll be hearing from Carrie later on during this board meeting. At this point, again, I would just like to say that these have been challenging times, and though I'm very proud that our staff has stepped up and we have no backlogs really in any of our daily work, I just want to alert the board that I'm not sure we can keep up this pace through the end of the year and beyond, depending on how long this lasts. especially now that staff will be allowed to essentially take 2 personal days off a month to essentially compensate for their checks being smaller. So I just want to give you a heads up that we're going to all continue to do our best, but things may slow down a bit. I don't anticipate necessarily that the business processes will slow down and that there'll be any more delays as we are continuing on to bring on new people to fill the vacancies. But I just want to give you a heads up that I'm going to be encouraging our management staff certainly to be taking some time off just as a breather as we still navigate this very, very difficult time. So that concludes my remarks, and I'll ask you if board members have any questions. Dr. Lai, looks like you have a question.
Yes, I do.
Please proceed.
Can you explain a little bit about the $5 million loan that we loaned to the state? One, how is it going to be paid back? 2, time frame of payback, and 3, assurance of payback, and where it's being appropriated.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. If you don't mind, we'll defer that question. We're going to have a budget report at the August meeting, and we're happy to address those concerns. So the governor in the interim has borrowed money from all boards and bureaus within the Department of Consumer Affairs, and then there is a process by which the money needs to be repaid by a certain time, but we will be discussing that in an agenda item in August under the budget report.
Does that also affect any of our staff members? Does it take away from programs that, 1 for our staff, 2 for our dentists, 3 our assistants? Or we have enough funds to continue as usual?
Well, overall, as I have stated, the governor has also asked that we cut our expenses, and by having these WebEx meetings and board members not travel and hotel and video expenses for in-person meetings, we are saving money. So yes, we are able to save money, and should the board ever get to a position where we're close to being insolvent, then the money would need to be paid back before we could move forward with a fee increase. But that, as I said, will be discussed more in August.
Yeah, my concern is just the runaway expenses and having to tax our dentists and assistants to pay for things maybe that do not apply to dental, as well as hurts our ability to do what we need to do as a board.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. We will take all these things down and make sure that your questions are addressed at the August meeting during the budget report.
Thank you very much.
And if you have no further questions, if you would put your hand down, please. Thank you. Dr. Morrow, looks like you're next.
Yes, Karen, thank you. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I want to express my extreme appreciation and gratitude to you, your management staff, and the entire staff of the board for maintaining the level of service that we are used to and have always had. I think under these trying times, for all of us, it has been difficult, but I do want to make a shout out to you and the staff for the great job that you have done in maintaining the business of the dental board.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morrow. Those comments are very much appreciated. Dr. Stewart, I don't see any more hands raised for the board, so if you wanted to ask the moderator to open for public comment.
Yes, let's do that, please. Are there any public comments? DC Moderator, please facilitate the lines for that comment.
This is the moderator. Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the question and answer panel. If you would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. If you do not see the Q&A panel, please click on the icon, the question mark within a square at the bottom middle of your screen. We are displaying instructions for your reference and will give you a moment to access the feature. Thank you. This is the moderator, and an individual identified as Amy Moenk has indicated she would like to make a comment. Amy, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. Please remember you have 2 minutes, and I will provide you with a 10-second warning. All right, Amy, you've been unmuted.
Yeah, my husband looked up how to check, and it said there's no.
Amy, you've been unmuted. We can hear you. All right. So this is the moderator, and Amy, we could hear you for a moment, but now we cannot. So we might have to, might try going up to the top of your screen and clicking on communicate and then audio options. You might need to call in. This is the moderator, and just a reminder that the Q&A panel is not for typing your question. If you would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment." We will unmute you in the order that you make your requests, and then you can make your comment. While we wait for Amy to get Amy, it sounds like we've got you on the line now. Would you like to make your comment? All right, so Amy, I'm going to mute you, and we're going to go to Deanna. It looks like she had a comment. All right, Deanna, you have 2 minutes. You've been unmuted.
I was just wanting to know what the plans were for the RDA-EF testing.
All right, and I'll go ahead and mute you. And I will go back to Amy one more time. Amy, you've been unmuted.
Hi, sorry. I have the same question as Deanna. My question was for the RDA-EF testing, and in the opening comments from the president, he had mentioned how something about the dental class this year, and not seeing live patients and making it through. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be an option for us to still take our examination if this continues without our live patients.
Thank you, Amy. I'll go ahead and mute you. All right, Mr. Board President, that is the end of public comments. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes.
All right, I will do so. Thank you.
I would like to ask our executive officer if it's the appropriate time to respond to those last two comments. They were roughly the same comment in terms of addressing the RDA-EF issue.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. That issue will be on the agenda in August.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Then we will now move on to agenda item 5, report of the Dental Hygiene Board of California activities. I believe Dr. Martinez and Mr. Anthony Lum are available to make that report.
Good morning, Mr. President, board members, and staff. I'm Dr. Timothy Martinez, the Dental Hygiene Board of California president. and participating with Anthony Lum, the Board Executive's officer, who's also on the call to report the Dental Hygiene Board activities to you. In these unprecedented times with the pandemic continuing, we've adjusted our work routines to where a majority of staff telework and rotate into the office on a schedule to maintain an open office for the public. Staff have transitioned well to this schedule as we envision it will continue through the end of the year. We've done our best to inform the public, applicants, licensees, educators, and stakeholders of the latest pandemic information affecting dental hygiene by posting links and information on our website to agencies that can help. The recent closure of dental offices due to the pandemic created major concern for many licensees in determining how they were to make a living. Yet, when they reopened, we heard from another large segment of the licensee population questioning whether it was safe to do so under the current pandemic. We've also unofficially heard that many dental hygienists have elected to retire or not return to work at all due to the safety risks involved in performing dental hygiene services during the pandemic. We suggest for them to follow all CDC, public health, and OSHA guidelines and the extensive use of PPE for protection. Dental hygienists are one of the most highly educated and trained practitioners in infection control, so remind them to use what they've learned to help protect the consumer, practitioner, and office staff alike. We've had a busy 5 months since we last presented to you in addition to the pandemic, with the focus on the following 7 items. Number 1, board meetings. We conducted our first meeting through WebEx on May 29, 2020, and in using the system, we improved public meeting participation by 300%. We normally have between 30 to 40 participants, but through this teleconference method, we had 160 to 170 participants. So for our profession, conducting meetings in this fashion may work better going forward. Number 2, program improvements. We continue with our internal process to review our programs, policies, and procedures and make any necessary changes for efficiency. We recently implemented full online license renewals so that licensees can renew their licenses in real time and pay with a credit card so there's no delay, and are working to eliminate the hard copy paper license renewal as much as possible. We are aware that there are some licensees who are more comfortable with the hard copy, so they will need to request the hard copy renewal instead of it being sent to them automatically. A postcard was sent to all licensees notifying them of this change. Number 3, examination development. In conjunction with the DCA Office of Professional Examination Services, OPES, we are working on examination development for both the RDH and RDH-AP Law and Ethics examination to create a new pool of questions for these exams going forward. Number 4, regulations. We continue to work on promulgating new regulations and identifying the need to revise other regulatory sections as needed. Most of these are continuing in the regulatory process since our last report with several departmental and agency reviews prior to moving forward to the Office of Administrative Law for approval. Number 5, educational programs. Site visits to dental hygiene educational programs for 2020 have been postponed due to the pandemic. We normally schedule our site visits soon after the conclusion of the CODA site visit, but since CODA has rescheduled their visits until 2021, we have done the same unless we receive a complaint. With most of the schools currently closed and administering their curriculum online into the fall, we don't anticipate any program issues for a site visit. For the class of 2020 dental hygiene students, many of them are in a holding pattern until their respective dental hygiene educational programs open the clinics so they can finish the required clinical hours. With the schools and clinics closing in March and not reopening yet due to the pandemic, many have 4 to 6 weeks or more of clinical time to make up. For the applicants that are waiting to complete a clinical examination for licensure, we will be reviewing the validation of alternative exams in lieu of the normal clinical exam as provided by the DCA Office of Professional Examination and Services for REB, credits, and ADEX next month at our August 29th, 2020 meeting. We were able to obtain approval of a temporary wet laboratory waiver so that students completing their biomedical science prerequisite coursework online without a wet laboratory will obtain science credit for these courses as deemed acceptable by the Educational Institute for entry into the dental hygiene program. Number 6, personnel. We continue to fill our vacant positions to address the board's work. We've interviewed for 2 positions but lost our probation monitor at the end of last week and will refill that slot soon. We also have 2 public board member vacancies as pandemic issues and no legislative sessions occurring has caused a delay in any new appointments. Lastly, new office. The plans for our office move have been revised to where it's anticipated that we'll move into the new space in early to mid-October 2020 if all the improvements are completed. Our new office is across the hall from your enforcement unit office. That concludes my report, and I want to thank you all for the continued efforts to collaborate on dental issues with us. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Martinez, for that report. Are there any board member comments?
This is Dr. Lai, but my hand is up.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. Go ahead.
This is Dr. Ross Lai. Hi, Dr. Martinez, Anthony. How you doing? I have a few questions. I have heard consistently that in the San Francisco area, a lot of hygienists are not wanting to work, or we're having a lot of issues with doctors and hygienists not meeting eye to eye on a lot of issues. So I don't know how we can help that situation, number one, because it seems as though we're not together and cohesive in patient care, which I kind of don't understand, being that we're following all the recommendations by CDC and ADA, CDA, and so forth. So I don't know how we can help both sides to come to a agreement on how patient care should be handled. Second question is how I know that the current 2020 class took REB and they had a very great response. Congratulations, and they had a good pass rate. And how's that going to be taken forward as far as the clinical portion? Obviously, giving an injection or patient management, isolation are all parts of this exam. And obviously, we know that some are better than others, and that's how we have a test for that. So those are 2 main questions that I have for the both of you. Anyone can respond to it.
This is Dr. Martinez. Dr. Lai, so a lot of what I'm hearing, though, is anecdotal, and I will work with Tony to find out a little bit more specifically on the actual questions or inquiries that are coming through here. And clearly, we definitely want to follow, all of the public health guidelines, state, CDC, et cetera. I myself personally am managing a large FQHC that goes out and does school programs, Head Starts, utilizing a lot of hygienists as well. It's communication and reassuring. And again, if they feel that their safety is at risk, that is in an HR. I defer a lot of these to HR if they want to self-isolate, et cetera. But Tony, perhaps maybe you want to chime in. My first question is, how grave is the concern, and can we get any objective numbers on the inquiries regarding this matter?
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to piggyback on what Dr. Martinez was saying. This is Tony, Executive Officer of the Dental Hygiene Board. In regards to following all the precautions that have been put out by all the various agencies, we're trying to reinforce that with the dental hygienists, so that way everybody at the practice can be safe, whether it's the practitioner, the patient. The best that we can do is use the training that they've been privileged to enforce safety at the work environment. As far as the issues between the practitioners, because we've heard a lot of that as well, and not being accusatory or anything, but the stories that I've heard is that many dental practices want to resume practice like it was prior to the pandemic. And in seeing that volume of patients and not only it being, safety processes set up, but there's also an issue of lack of PPE in the office. So many dental hygienists have informed us that, under those circumstances, they feel it's unsafe to either return to work or continue at work without corrective action being done. Now, with that being said, with us being a licensing board and that being actually an employer-employee issue, it's technically something outside of our purview. I'm glad to help out, but that again is an employer and employee relations issue that needs to be resolved within the practice, and of course, according to the safety guidelines that are provided by the CDC, local public health, etc. So hopefully, the practices can individually work out their differences, and I think both professions should hope for the best on that. And we're glad to help out in any way we can, but again, our jurisdiction is limited to what we can do in an employee and employer relationship like that. As far as the second question on the class of 2020, we're aware, our current class of 2020 is kind of in a limbo state of the class of 2020 for dental hygiene actually finished up their clinical hours prior to the closure of their educational programs. So what we did was, prior to our May 29th meeting, I actually conducted a educational task force to address the issue. And we had 7 educational program directors participate with that. And Joanne Pacheco, your board member, actually participated with us. Thank you so much, Joanne. And what the conclusion was that all the program directors decided that with the amount of time that was missed in the clinic, which is basically priceless for these people to be ready to go into the profession, they felt that it was a safe play to wait until the clinics reopen, so that way they can finish their clinical time and proceed with graduation and the like of their requirements. So also what the board is doing currently, like what you did for your dental students, is we're reviewing alternatives to the clinical examination. And so OPES, like Dr. Martinez said, is reviewing the documentation that the exam administrators has submitted for validation. So that issue, once that review is completed, will be discussed at our upcoming August 29th meeting. Thank you.
Dr. Lai, I would like to address, this is Dr. Stewart, I would like to address that issue as well. And we've been back to work in my office for about going on 4 weeks now. But there was a webinar provided and some excellent training. And before we went back into and actually treating patients, we had 2 days of conversation. So we had our dental assistants, our RDAs, our DAs, we had our hygienists, and the docs sitting down together and going through all of these issues, making sure that as much as possible that everybody was comfortable and that we were doing all the appropriate things. So that day and a half of training was very, very important to reopening with all hands on board and everybody feeling as if they had a chance to express their concerns and make sure that they were comfortable with the protocols in place during this difficult time. So again, like so many things in life, it comes down to communication and trust and respecting each other's sense of comfort and sense of being taken care of appropriately in the office and as we attempt to treat our patients. So I'm hoping that that kind of communication is more widespread than some of what you're hearing anecdotally.
Dr. Stewart, I agree. I can't agree with you more. We have done the same thing, and we had basically got soft opening and bringing our patients back. We went from 9 patients to 7 to give more time for the hygienist to break down and put more PPEs and plastics and hypochlorous acid fogging and all that. So we have been doing the same. But I think also the word needs to get out that we're kind of we're all in this together. We're going to try to do our best. And, it's an additive process from the 2003. I worked with Dr. Silverman with the AIDS and the HIV back then to develop a protocol just for dental. So I don't, as Dr. Martinez said, it will never go back to how it was, but the modification of how we present our treatment to our patients or needs to be addressed because there's so much confusion within the dental hygiene people and the dental people, and we're all in it together, but there's infighting within, no, that's not how it should be done, or this is how. So I think not to have a mandate, but we should have some recommendations on how to help everybody's situation. And that's my reason for these questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. Are there any other board members that would like to address this issue? Seeing none, are there any public comments?
Yeah, I have my hand up. This is Dr. Larin.
For some reason, I'm not seeing the hands on my computer, so someone's going to have to help me on that one.
We'll do.
Oh, can you hear me? This is Dr. Larin. I just wanted to comment that the hygienists are a very, very important part of our practice. And I am seeing them leave the profession, even though they do have the trust and confidence in their with their dentist and the staff, and they don't feel comfortable. I think just maybe they're afraid, and it's very sad to see that. But I wanted to know if you have any numbers of how many hygienists are leaving the profession, or are they canceling their license, or how are you? Are you just listening to what they're saying, and or are you actually? Do you have statistics on that? I know it's a little premature right now, but
hi, this is Tony. This is Tony with the dental board, dental hygiene board. No, we don't have any statistics at this point in time. It's only been over the past 6 weeks or so that we've been hearing about individual dental hygienists not returning to work. We haven't had any official statistical gathering at this point in time. Just I've been unofficially kind of tabulating, and currently I've received probably about a dozen phone calls and emails about the subject. But I anticipate if the dental hygienists don't feel more comfortable with that, with returning to work and practicing, there are still a lot of hygienists that are on the borderline of retiring. So I think they could do so comfortably if they're in a position to do so. But it still doesn't, provide a reason for them to leave the profession if they still feel that they can continue with their practice. I think for the overall picture, they're just uneasy with having to do their procedures with the aerosol factors and things like that. And maybe a dental office where they're working isn't set up as efficiently to provide protection as well as maybe other practices are. So those types of issues, come into play for these dental hygienists, even though they may have the adequate PPE, follow all the guidelines, et cetera, but many of them are scared. And it's funny because we get information from both sides, because many of them call or email us and say that they're, scared to get returned to work because of the aerosol factor. But other hygienists are, anxious to get back into it and without any hesitation. So across the spectrum, we're getting information from all different aspects.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, how about public comments?
This is the moderator. Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the question and answer panel. All right, the question and answer panel is now available. If you would like to make a public comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" in the field in the lower right hand of your screen and submit it to all panelists. If you are not seeing the Q&A panel, please click on the icon, or excuse me, the question mark in a square at the bottom of your screen. We are displaying instructions for your reference. And I see that we have a Courtney Barr who would like to make a comment. So Courtney, I will let you know when I have unmuted you. Please remember you have 2 minutes and I'll give you a 10-second warning before your time is up. And Courtney, you've been unmuted.
Hi, I've been an RDA for 25 years. I'm currently waiting for to get my license for my RDA EF. I work with a ton of hygienists. I was told that we can, or they can, hand scale, not use their ultrasonic, their little water machine there, to do cleanings, and that would be fine. However, RDAs, dentists, we're all sitting back there with, doing extractions, and there's plenty of aerosol through a dental office. So if it's that big of a deal, aerosol wise, then, hygiene wouldn't be working at all if it was, or dentist or assistants or RDAFs. But my question is, I guess, we're hearing a lot of things about licenses going through in different ways, via email or maybe having your own boss doing your license for you, or the school's doing your license for you. We're just sitting here waiting. You have a ton of hygienists that are waiting on licenses, and I understand that's an August question, but you have people's livelihoods, or we're all sitting here waiting for an answer, and we're not getting an answer today. And we were told we were going to get some type of answer today from this meeting, and we're waiting for anything, any kind of question or any type of answer from you guys. For our license, because you have tons of girls now in limbo, and all it's going to do, and this is going to build up, and you're going to have more girls in limbo. So is there any way that you can answer any of those questions for us today about our license, or
10 seconds.
Any of that? I'm done.
Thank you, Courtney. All right, this is the moderator, and I'm seeing one additional, or a few additional requests for public comment. We have Alice Joachim. So Allison, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. And again, you have 2 minutes to speak. Allison, you've been unmuted.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the members of the board. Thank you to Dr. Martinez and Tony Lum for addressing all of these concerns. I just wanted to acknowledge, I'm an RDH, and acknowledge the concerns and issues that have been brought up. As an RDH, I will say the volume of work involved in setting up and breaking down an operatory now post-COVID is significantly higher than before COVID. And I really appreciate acknowledging that the number of patients seen per day decreasing is extremely important to feeling like we're still delivering to the standard of care, because there's simply more to do for every patient. And again, hand scaling is just very time consuming. It's a lot more stress on the body. And I know every hygienist, for the most part, is really trying to follow CDC and California Department of Public Health recommendations to hand scale only. So I think it's really important if dentists are concerned and both boards are concerned about decrease of RDHs continuing field, I would recommend having conversations with your staff about is what will reduce that stress, fear level. And for me personally, it's ensuring I'm still delivering to the standard of care. And that means seeing 7 patients per day instead of 8 patients. I think we cannot pretend this is business as usual because the world is different now. What we're doing is different. And just having open conversations about what it'll entail and what's reasonable, but still acknowledging the business realities.
10 seconds.
So that's all I wanted to say. And thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for those comments.
All right, this is the moderator, and I'm seeing no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you, I've done it.
Well, thank you, and we will now move on to agenda item 6, report of the Department of Consumer Affairs Staffing and Activities.
Good morning, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good morning, board members and board president Stewart. I'm Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director, Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. First of all, I'd like to congratulate your board on some appointments made to your board just yesterday. Governor Newsom appointed Alicia Montel to the Dental Board of California and reappointed James Yu and Meredith McKenzie. So congratulations on your new member and congratulations on the reappointments as well. I am also brand new. I was appointed by Governor Newsom to serve as Deputy Director beginning June 1st. I most recently came from the Senate where I was Legislative Director for Senator Jim Bell. Before my time in the legislature, I served at the Secretary of State's office as Assistant Deputy. I've always been passionate about consumer protection, and so I'm very happy to be here at DCA working with the boards and bureaus. As you know, I'm part of a new leadership team. In January, Governor Newsom appointed Lourdes Castro Ramirez as the new Secretary of the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency, effective March 2nd. On March 5th, Governor Newsom appointed Jennifer Simoes as DCA's Deputy Director of Legislation. And finally, on April 16th, Christine Lawley was appointed by Governor Newsom as the Chief Deputy Director of DCA, and she joined us this month. Ms. Lawley most recently served as Deputy Director of the Medical Board of California. As you may recall from her January update, Director Kirkmeyer laid out several of her priorities, including improving the regulations process and timelines. Now that she has her team in place, she will be able to devote even more time to this priority. DCA's regulations unit was created by DCA Legal to directly assist boards and bureaus with their regulations packages. The department also developed an online system to electronically manage and track regulations packages and streamline their review. It's called Sharewell. Sharewell testing with a pilot cohort is now complete. There will be regular check-ins with the pilot groups to solicit feedback, and the feedback will be evaluated to determine next stages of the rollout plan. Another ongoing project you're interested in, DCA is overhauling the officer evaluation and salary increase process. The process incorporates feedback from CalHR and agency, and it's undergoing a final review. DCA is looking at recommendations from the salary study that was completed in 2019 and separating the evaluation from the salary request process to ensure that the evaluation is done each year. Finally, we are tracking the process to know at each step if the request is approved or denied and reporting back to the board. Level increases may not be approved at this time because of the financial impacts and the climate we're in, but we have been helping to put forward salary increase memos with some success. Our work continues, even though COVID-19 has changed the way that we do business now and in the future. As Ms. Fisher explained earlier, DCA temporarily closed all offices to the public in March in response to state and local home orders to help reduce the spread of COVID-19. DCA and all the boards and bureaus have implemented telework plans and have required physical distancing for those employees who cannot telework. DCA offices reopened to the public on June 15th with preventative measures to safeguard the health and safety of employees and visitors. We are truly grateful to you for your continued service and to your staff for being so flexible. I know your board has some staff working on contact tracing, and I want to thank you for that. The public health work of contact tracing is so vital, not only to keep people safe and healthy, but also to keep more of our economy and services open. DCA has been busy issuing waivers needed to maintain a licensed workforce during COVID-19. To date, DCA has issued 36 waivers, ranging from continuing education requirements, telehealth requirements, and licensure reinstatements. I'd like to ask you to look at the existing waivers and changes that have affected your board and licensees. What might be helpful to keep in the long run? DCA is looking at identifying areas where changes could be made on an ongoing basis and welcomes any feedback and ideas you have. I look forward to getting to know you and your programs better, and I hope the day comes soon when we can meet in person. In the meantime, if you have any questions or need anything from DCA, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am new, so I may not have the answer for you today, but I will find it for you. I'm here to help. Thank you again for inviting me to your meeting. That concludes my presentation. I will hand it back over to Board President Stewart.
Carrie, thank you for that update. We very much appreciate that and look forward to working with you. So thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Are there any? Thank you. Are there any board member comments?
Dr. Stewart, I don't see any hands up.
Thank you. Are there any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. This is the moderator. I will open up the question and answer panel. It is now available. If you would like to make a public comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment" in the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to the host. We are displaying instructions for your reference. If you do not see the Q&A panel, click on the question mark within a box in the lower middle of your screen. Thank you. This is the moderator, and Mr. Board President, I am seeing no requests for public comments at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, it's closed.
Okay, thank you. And we will now move on to agenda item 7, discussion and possible action regarding appointment of dental assisting council members. I will ask board member Olegi, Rose, Chair of the Dental Assisting Council Subcommittee, to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. Team, I want to start with Joanne Pacheco and myself conducted interviews for the following Dental Assistant Council vacancies: 2 faculty members of RDA educational program approved by the board, 1 RDA EF member employed clinically in private dental practice or public safety net or dental health care clinics, and 1 RDA member employed clinically in private dental practice or public safety net or dental health care clinics. After thoroughly reviewing applications, cover letters, letters of recommendation, and completing phone interviews, we request the board take action on subcommittee recommendations to appoint Kara McCaskey, RDA, Jerry Fowler, RDA EF, as faculty members of an RDA educational program approved by the board. Tracy Reed Espinoza, RDA EF, as a practicing RDA EF, employed clinically in private practice or public safety net or dental healthcare clinics, and Michelle Jaward, RDA, an RDA member employed clinically in private dental practice or public safety net or dental healthcare clinics. Board members, applications, cover letters, and letters of recommendation can be found on pages 31 to 109 for your review.
Thank you. We have that recommendation. Is there a motion and a second to accept the subcommittee's recommendation? Please unmute your phone, identify yourself, and make a motion or second.
This is Steve Chan. I would like to move the recommendations of the committee.
I'm sorry, Dr. Stewart. Dr. Felsenfeld had his hand up, and we need to adjust your script to indicate the motions need to be done by raising of the hand. In this case, go ahead and accept Dr. Chan's motion, and Dr. Felsenfeld, if you'd like to unmute your microphone.
And I will be happy to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Are there any board member comments? Are there any public comments?
This is the moderator. Thank you, Mr. President. Board President, I will open up the Q&A feature at your request. All right, the question and answer feature is now available. If you would like to make a public comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to the host. If you are not seeing the Q&A panel, click on the question mark within the square at the bottom middle of your screen, and we are displaying instructions for your reference on the slide. This is the moderator, and I am seeing no requests for public comment at this time. Mr. Board President, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome. It's closed.
And if I'm understanding Karen correctly, we're going to take a vote by raising of hands. Is that correct, Karen?
No, I'm sorry, Dr. Stewart. The motion and the second, it's just easier. We're watching, staff is watching to see who raises their hand first, essentially, to do the motion and the second. So just for the motion, now you hand it over to Secretary Pacheco, and she'll go ahead and call the roll.
Understood. Thank you. Board Secretary, will you please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item?
This is Joanne Pacheco, and I would be happy to. This is agenda item number 7, motion by Chan to move the recommendations of the committee to appoint Karen Masaki, Jerry Fowler, Tracy Reed Espinoza, and Michelle Jawad to the Dental Assisting Council. The motion was seconded by Felsenfeld. I will now call the roll. Burton?
Burton, aye.
Burton, aye. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Lai?
Yes.
Lai, aye. Laren?
Laren, aye.
Laren, aye. Mackenzie?
Yes.
Mackenzie, aye. Medina?
Aye.
Medina, aye. Morrow?
Morrow, aye.
Morrow, aye. Olagi?
Yes.
Olagi, aye. Pacheco, yes. Stewart?
Stewart, yes.
Stewart, aye. You?
You, yes.
You, aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're now moving on to agenda item 8, update on the new dental assisting program and course application. And I guess I'd like to ask at this point, should we finish this item before we take a 10-minute bio break, or would some folks like to stop here and take 10 minutes?
Dr. Felsenfeld, this is Karen. Do you have your hand up? Dr. Felsenfeld, you have your hand up. Did you have a comment or a question?
I'm sorry, I have to learn to unmute it from down here rather than at the actual, where my name is. It doesn't work up there. Yes, I do. I'd like to continue on through this, please.
Okay. Ms. Burton also has her hand up. And Dr.
Yes.
Felsenfeld, if you can put your hand down.
I need a little break.
Okay, hearing that, then I would like to establish a 10-minute break, if that's appropriate, and we'll see you all in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Fran, this is Sarah. Can you please mute your microphone?
Oh, you're hearing me coughing?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, my God. And you didn't hear anything before that, did you?
Some shuffling, but that's okay.
Okay.
As a practice, we should, as we take breaks, everyone should be automatically muted. That way we don't risk. So I think what we should try to practice that. This is Abigail, by the way, just making sure.
Thank you, Abigail. We're asking the moderator to make sure that everyone's muted at breaks. Thank you.
This is Dr. Stewart. Has everybody had a chance to get up and stretch and enjoy one of those yogurts or whatever snacks available?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have.
Thank you,
Tom,
Mr. Stewart. Thank you.
Thank you
they
very
were
much.
full of energy, Tom.
Excellent. I'd like to check in with Karen. Staff ready to go? Are we ready to go?
In the future, Dr. Stewart, we need to make sure the breaks are 15 minutes just to comply with union standards.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think,
Should we give a few more minutes?
let's give a few more minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. I believe that's 15 minutes. And so if the moderator is ready to go and the person recording the meeting is ready to go, we're ready to go.
This is the moderator, and I've got the recording back on.
Thank you. I believe we're now moving on to agenda item 8. Do we have the recorder available or the note taker back with us?
This is Pahua. I'm here.
Thank you, Pahua. Let's now move on to agenda item 8, update on the new dental assisting program and course application. And I will ask Tina Valerie, Chief of Administration and Licensing, to present this agenda item.
Good morning, this is Tina Valerie. I'm presenting the update on new dental assisting program and course applications. This memo provides an overview of the new dental assisting program and course applications received by the board. Table 1 shows the total number of program and course applications approved in 2020. Table 2 shows the number of RDA and RDA-EF program site visits conducted in 2020. Table 3 is an overview of the status of each application received. Table 4 shows the total number of approved programs and courses. And Table 5 identifies the approved programs and courses by name and type of program. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any board member comments?
Dr. Stewart, Ms. Burton has her hand raised.
Yes, Fran.
Good morning, Tina. In Table 1, how does that compare to this time last year in terms of totals?
I don't have last year's numbers in front of me, but I can definitely report that back either later today or at the next meeting. But I will just try to take a guess and say that I think that we're moving, if not faster, at least equally as fast as last year. We have done some revamping in the process, and the courses and programs are definitely moving through rather rapidly, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Fran. Any further board comments or questions? Seeing none, are there any public comments?
This is the moderator. Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the question and answer feature. The Q&A panel is now available. If you would like to make a public comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to the host. If you're not seeing this feature, please click on the question mark within a box at the bottom middle of your screen. We are displaying instructions for your reference. This is the moderator, and Mr. Board President, I'm seeing no requests for public comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome. It's closed.
And thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 8B, update on RDA program reevaluation. Tina Valerie, again, Chief of Administration and Licensing, will present this agenda item. Thank you, Tina.
Hi, this is Tina Valerie again. This memo is an update on the RDA program reevaluation. The table beginning on page 1 of the memo or page 114 of the meeting materials will show the reevaluations currently being conducted by board staff and the status of each reevaluation. We have also included the overview of the reevaluation process and our efforts to improve communication with programs and our plans to continue to improve this process. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tina. Are there any board member comments or questions?
I have a question. This is Dr. Lilian Larin.
Yes, Dr. Larin.
You're developing a process for a new application. When do you think that will be ready?
So we are in the process of developing a program and course application that is part of the dental assisting rulemaking. And we're really trying to focus on that right now. So the reevaluation, once we're done with that application, should be very similar So I'm hoping to have that done as soon as we complete the rulemaking.
Okay, thank you. It looks like that's going to help a lot with the reevaluation, with the problems that we've been having with that, right?
I definitely think it will be of great assistance to the programs and help streamline what we're asking for from them and make it a lot easier to understand, for sure.
So you think that's going to be ready in the next couple of months, or when do you think?
I'm going to say that I'm going to try to shoot for the end of the year. So yes, that's my goal. But of course, you know, that's taking into account if anything of urgency jumps up, but that's definitely my goal.
And who verifies the application and approves it? Because it says here.
The approval of all of our applications, it definitely goes through our legal team and internal staff and management.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Lauren. Any further board member comments or questions?
This is Steve Chan.
Oh, okay, Steve.
Stewart, it looks like Steve Chan's hand is up.
Okay.
On page 116, and it says page 3 of 6, there's the list of deficiency notifications, and the responses were due in 2019. So the question is twofold. Number one, do they get an extension to answer the deficiencies? And then number two, what happens if they're continuing to be deficient? Because this is back last year.
So Dr. Chan, we are definitely working with each program to mediate their deficiencies. And I will say also that our priority is always new program and course applications. So these reevaluations, while equally important, take kind of second chair to the new programs and courses that are coming in. So while it indicates the deficiency response dates, I will say that I think that we inadvertently omitted if they had in fact responded since then, because most of them have, or they have requested extensions. And we've been working with each program based on the feedback we gave to allow extensions. But there are very few, if I remember correctly, if any, that just have not responded to us. So I definitely don't think that's an issue that we're going to have, but if it is, we'll definitely address that with the program directly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. Any further board member comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. This is the moderator, and I will open up the question and answer panel. All right, the question and answer panel is now available. If you would like to make a comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to the host. If you do not see this feature available, click on the question mark within a square at the bottom lower middle of your computer, and we are displaying instructions for your reference. And I see we have a Claudia poll that has requested comments. So Claudia, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. And Claudia, please remember you have 2 minutes. I'll give you a 10-second warning. Claudia, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Loren and Dr. Chan, for your questions. They mirrored my own. The only one remaining then would be to Tina, and that is, when might we see then an updated chart or updated information with the current status of these schools? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. And this is the moderator. I am seeing no additional requests for comment. Mr. Board President, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Are we able to get Tina to respond to that last query?
Yes, so my intention will be to bring this back to the next board meeting when we report the update for the program and course reevaluation.
Thank you, Tina.
You're
Are there any further public comment?
This is the moderator, and there are no further requests for public comment.
Thank you. All right, we will now move on to agenda item 8C, update on dental assisting examination statistics. Tina Valerie.
Thank you. Currently, the board offers 4 written examinations: the RDA Combined General Written and Law and Ethics exam, the RDA EF Written, the Orthodontic Assistant Permit Written, and the Dental Sedation Assistant Permit Written exam. The tables beginning on page 1 of the memo or page 120 of the meeting materials include candidates that have been tested over the last 12 months and the passing and failing scores for each exam. Additionally, you will find a breakdown of each examination by first time and repeat candidates and their passing and failing scores. The board also offers the RDA EF clinical and practical examinations, which was offered in March in both Northern and Southern California. You will also find numerous pages of statistics that show the passing rates for each individual approved program. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tina. Are there any board member comments or questions?
Okay, I see Dr. Lai's hand went up first, followed by Dr. Chan.
Dr. Lai.
Hi, just a general question. Just noticed that the orthodontic assistants seem to have more trouble with the exam. Is there a reason for that? Are they not prepared? I just think looking across the board, they have the highest failure rate, and I'm just kind of perplexed at that.
I don't have the answer to that specific question, but I'd be more than happy to reach out to OPES to see if we have any data on that. But I believe this is a consistent since it's been implemented, but I don't know the specific reasons. I know that we are constantly reviewing the examinations and updating them based on workshop feedback. So again, I'd be more than happy to bring this back at the next meeting and try to provide some additional information.
So yeah, so I'm thinking that I don't know if their curriculum is different than the regular RDA, or they have to be RDA before they become orthodontic assistants. So I don't see where the basic written law and ethics and would be that big of a discrepancy. That's my I'm just in wonderment of that.
Just to comment on that, they do not have to be an RDA in order to qualify for the orthodontic assistant permit. They have to take an orthodontic assistant permit course, and then they would be eligible once completing that course and the other requirements. They'd be eligible to take this exam. So there is a work experience pathway included. But they can be RDAs, but not all of them are.
Okay, so they can either be a DA and get I guess a certificate. Is that what that is? That might be the issue.
Sorry, they do get a certificate of completion from their program, and then if they apply with us for this and pass the examination, they would be issued an orthodontic permit.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Dr. Chan?
Thank you. It seems that, well, first of all, The overview is that the role that we play is the gatekeeper. But over time, we've had questions and we don't see the trends here because we only see what it looks like now in terms of the pass failure rate. But anecdotally, we've had this recurrent question of such a high, what we believe is a high failure rate. So two things. Number one, we don't know just based on today's, on the information Tina's giving us today, whether or not that's just an anomaly now, or is there a trend in this? The second question is this a real high failure rate, which has implications on, as the gatekeeper, the workforce, and then the competency. And then the other part of the question is, we realize there are several steps to validate a test. So the question is, are we validating, protecting the public with this, and yet we still have a high failure rate? Comment and questions.
This is Sarah, Assistant Executive Officer. I did want to comment that the board staff are currently working with the Office of Professional Examination Services to conduct an occupational analysis and exam validation review of the OA written examination. So this should be, additional information will be provided as we move through that process.
Thanks, Sarah.
And I will also comment, this is Karen, Executive Officer. Dr. Chan, were you making your comments across the board for all exams or just related to the orthodontic assistant?
No, across the board. When you
Okay.
when you see things that are more than 50%, that seems to be significant.
Yeah, and I think too that just remember, you see the overall pass rate is the first box, but go down to also to the first time pass rate. So what brings down the overall pass rate is the repeat takers who don't seem to be able to do well after their first time. So we'll have staff be looking at the trends. This information is available in past board meeting packets, and we will go ahead and at some point during the year update you on essentially what the statistics looked like perhaps a year ago. But we haven't seen a huge shift necessarily one way or the other. If there's been a shift, it's just been slow. We've had this discussion before relating to other examinations, and our legal counsel at that point indicated that it would be difficult to determine why people aren't passing the exam. The board's responsibility at this point is just to ensure that the exam is legally defensible and psychometrically sound, and we do that through our occupational analysis and then having the OPES review periodically not only the occupational analysis, but then compare those to the exams. And that's why we are on a regular schedule to have all our exams reviewed and to have our occupational analyses updated periodically.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. Further board member comments or questions?
Dr. Stewart, it looks like Dr. Loren's hand is up.
Yes, my hand is up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, do we have any comparison percentages for other the other courses and others around the country? How do we compare to the other states in percentage of pass rate? And, I'm asking because I just heard that the bar exam changed their percentage rate because they were not passing, or I think it was like the highest, you needed the highest percentage rate in the country, so they changed it and they lowered it because they were having the same issue. So I'm just wondering, how do we compare with other states as far as the pass rate?
Dr. Laren, again, this is Karen Fisher. We don't compare ourselves to other states because many other states don't have the same licensing classifications. And an RDS
RDA and an RDA-EF licensed in California have very different scope of practice throughout the country. So our best, the board's best process essentially to ensure minimum competency is just to make sure that our occupational analysis is complete on a regular basis and our exams are reviewed, again, to be legally defensible and psychometrically sound.
Okay, well, so how many states do you think are giving the exam for RDA or CD? What is it? What is it called? Certified Dental Assistant? Do you know how many states are offering that? I mean, is there any sort of comparison that we can make? I know it's different, but maybe it might be well worth it to look into that a little bit more, because maybe our percentage pass rate is a little too high. So it might be worth just trying to find out what the rest of the country is doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lai, it looks like your hand is up again. Did you have an additional question?
No, I'm good. I don't have a question. Thank you. Sorry.
And Dr. Stewart, Dr. Montez, Tracy Montez has her hand raised.
Thank you. Dr.
Good
Montez.
morning. Yeah, good morning. This is Tracy Montez with the Office of Professional Examination Services, and I just wanted to reiterate what both Sarah and Karen said, and that is that your board is on schedule to complete occupational analyses and exam development. And I will state that we have had challenges with your passing rates over a number of years, but as Karen mentioned, the goal is to ensure that you do have a valid exam process. What makes the program challenging is that you do have multiple pathways to licensure. And again, given the discretion of the dentist overseeing the assistants and the various professions that you regulate, it does make it challenging to establish that entry-level competence, that standard. And so we do our very best to make sure that the test is valid and reliable, but the fact that your candidates have different avenues of qualifying can make it tricky. And as far as the bar exam, I can actually comment on that because I've done some consulting work for the state bar. They have made some changes to their passing score. However, it has been done in a psychometrically defensible way, not so much to improve passing per se, but to make it a stronger and more valid passing rate. They are looking at their examination program quite extensively, trying to address their low passing rate, but they are doing it in a defensible manner. Unfortunately, because California has its own examination and it's governed by its scope of practice, it does make it difficult to compare across the states. But I do want to reassure you that I will share this feedback to the staff at OPS that manages your exam programs. And please know that we are constantly trying to navigate the program and to look at ways to assist the passing rate, because we would like to see it a bit higher than it is. Again, we don't do things to manipulate the passing score or passing rate, but based upon the skill sets of your candidates, it would be expected to see a somewhat higher passing rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further board member comments? I see none. Let's go to public comments.
This is the moderator, and thank you, Mr. Board President. I will go ahead and open up the question and answer panel at your request. All right, the Q&A panel is now available. If you would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit your comment. We are displaying instructions for your reference. If you are not seeing the Q&A panel, please click on the question mark within a square at the bottom middle of your screen. And I do see that we have Claudia Pohl who would like to make a comment. Again, please remember you have 2 minutes. Claudia, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. All right, Claudia, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. And thank you again to the Dental Board for your wonderful conversation and questions on this topic. One thing I'd like to raise that I don't know if it has been raised before is I have heard comments before in our community about the student population and their background, and that many of them are not English first language. They are English second or maybe even third language. Has the board ever considered or discussed the possibility of having the exam or exams published in different languages? Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. And this is the moderator. I don't see any further requests for public comment.
And do we have a response from staff regarding Claudia Pohl's question?
Hi, this is Tina Valerie. I know that this topic has come up before, and I can bring the answer back at the next board meeting because I would have to check in with OPES to hear their recommendation. But I know in the past that we were advised that English is the language that we operate in, and I'll have to look more into that to give a more detailed answer.
Thank you, Tina. Excellent.
All right, this is a moderator, and we have no further requests for public comment. Mr. Board President, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome.
So we will now move on to agenda item 8D, update on dental licensing statistics. Tina Valerie.
Hello again. The board currently licenses RDAs, RDAES, OAs, and DSAs in the dental assisting unit. This memo is an overview of the current and inactive, delinquent, and canceled licenses. This item also provides the delinquent license aging, a breakdown of licensees per county, and the ratio of RDAs to DDSs licensed within those counties. Beginning on page 4 of this memo, there are tables indicating the number of applications received by the board in 2020, as well as those that have been approved, the number of licenses that have been issued, with the number of applications that were canceled, withdrawn, and denied. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tina. Are there any board member comments or questions?
Dr. Chan's hand is raised. And Dr. Laren, I don't know if you have a new question or if you just didn't put your hand down from before. So Dr. Chan?
Thank you.
Let me see. No.
We, I think it was at not this last more recent board meeting, but last year, that we had to make our reporting more consistent so that it was following the formats of, I think, Breeze. And the question comes with looking at these statistics. We're only looking at a point in time. And the point in time is just a glance in time. And yet we can't really understand whether or not this is just a moment in time blip in terms of upswing or downswing. And yet I know in the past, and I've asked, I was the one that asked Carlos about this, to look at trend analysis, to look at what the trends look like. And given some of our comments anecdotally about dental hygiene and their workforce, the question comes, if we collect data on what we're seeing with COVID, could it help us understand what we're looking at as a moving picture moving forward? Again, collecting data not just for today or the quarter, but looking last year, year before, and then looking at this blip with COVID, would it be helpful for us?
Dr. Chan, you'll recall that Dr. Bruce Witcher was kind of the poster child. Bruce would go back and look at, a year ago's numbers, 6 months ago's numbers, and compare them to the current. So he did that homework, he did that work, and he was able to demonstrate what it took to really understand the trends. And so I always appreciated Dr. Witcher's work ethic and his ability to see the whole picture. So perhaps what we need to learn how to do better is keep track of, if there's something we want to keep track of, we need to go back to a year ago, 6 months ago, whatever, and compare it to today. And so it's not just a snapshot, we'll better understand. Are you asking for a different approach in terms of understanding trends?
Actually, to augment what we have now. It would help not only individuals on the board, but our entire membership of the board to make good decisions.
So staff has heard those comments, and we'll look into that. Thank you.
Dr. Stewart, I can't tell. Dr. Laren, your hand is still up. I don't know if you have an additional question or whether or not you just haven't put your hand down.
No, for some reason, I cannot put the hand down. I'm trying to click on it. I do not have a question.
Okay, thank you. We'll just keep, when we get to that point, I'll just keep asking you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to get it down, but we'll just keep asking you.
I saw, it's at the bottom, sorry. I was clicking.
You got it. You got it. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Loren. Are there any further board member comments on this issue? Seeing none, any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. This is the moderator. I will go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. It is now open. And it sounds like we have panelists that might need to mute themselves. Okay, there we go. So if you're not seeing a Q&A panel, click on the question mark within a square at the bottom middle of your screen. We are displaying instructions for your reference as well. And we'll give you a moment to access the Q&A panel. All right, this is the moderator, and I'm seeing no requests for public comment at this time. Mr. Board President, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to agenda item 9A, review of enforcement statistics and trends. I will ask Carlos Alvarez, Chief of Enforcement, to present this agenda item. Good morning, Carlos.
Good morning, Dr. Stewart, and good morning, board members. Carlos Alvarez here to present the statistics. And I'll be presenting the complaint and compliance unit statistics first. Between January 1st, 2020 and March 31st of 2020, the complaint and compliance unit received 957 complaints. Then the following quarter, April 1st of 2020 through June 2020, we had received approximately about 300 cases less, and the unit received approximately 639 cases. And so the complaint cases that are currently open in the complaint and compliance unit as June 30th is 560 complaints. So they're still in the process of gathering records. They're still in the process of being reviewed by dental consultants. And then as you can see, we still are remaining at zero with cases that were on our shelves for a year. So it was good that we're still remaining at zero. So we're moving these cases a little bit faster now. And so currently, the cases closed in the complaint compliance unit between March 1st, 2020 and March 31st, 2020 was 858. And so the monthly averages have kind of remained the same through April of 2020 and June 30th, 2020. And so the cases closed for that time frame was 866 cases. And so, like I said, the monthly average still kind of remained the same with 289 cases for that time period. And so I'll be moving on to the investigative analysis unit. Our investigative analysis unit is our civilian unit, our non-sworn, what we call. And so we have the numbers for our subsequent arrest reports, which we also refer as SARS. And so currently, right now, as of July 15th of 2020, we have 384 cases. And so we're waiting for, on those type of cases with the SARS, is we're collecting police reports. We're waiting for cases to be adjudicated in the criminal courts in order to collect the convictions. And once that unit collects the police reports, we have validated convictions from the criminal courts. We move those on to an investigation. And so therefore, the ones that you see that we have no control over the case aging with these, with the 1 to 2 years, 2 years, because again, we're waiting on adjudication from the criminal courts. So we don't really have any control over the case aging on that part there. So with the investigative analysis unit currently right now, in that unit, there's 404 investigative cases that are open. And as you can see with our 3-year cases here, that's when we start nearing with our statute of limitations, where we have to close these cases out, where the time frame expires for us. And currently right now, that's at 1. So that's really great that we have these numbers really low. And also the good news is that the what we call the IAU units, we're at full staff currently right now, with the exception of having a special investigator supervisor. So we're at full staff. So hopefully these numbers of open cases will start reducing. And we have 2 new special investigators or in that unit. We have an office technician in that unit. So hopefully we'll start seeing these numbers reduce in the open cases or the IAU unit. Then as far as our sworn unit, in Sacramento, we have currently right now 197 investigative cases as of July 15th, 2020. Then as you can see again with our cases that are 3 years or plus, we have them at 2. Then as 2 and 3 years, we have them at 23. So that's really good. We try to expedite those cases prior to the statute of limitations of expiring. And as far as the Orange office, we have now special investigators now in the Orange office. We have 3 new special investigators now. And currently with the special investigators in the Orange office, we have a total of 52 investigations that are open that are assigned to them. And as far as the sworn personnel, those numbers are actually more higher with our sworn personnel in Orange. And again, typically the cases that we receive in Southern California are much higher compared to Northern California. And we have a total of 335 investigative cases in the Orange office as of July the 15th, 2020. And again, the 3-year mark, those cases are low. We're at 9 currently right now. And so currently right now with all the offices combined, IAU, Sacramento, and our Orange office from the time frame of January 1st, 2020 through June 30th of 2020, we have closed 416 cases. So currently right now for inspections in Sacramento and the Orange office, we have 13 open inspections in Sacramento, and we have 38 open inspections in the Orange office. So those are the complaints of unsanitary conditions. Some of the complaints could involve that perhaps some staff are working on a scope, and that's when we open up inspection cases. And then as we move on to the administrative and disciplinary actions, we have through January 1st and June 30th, we have a total of 82 citations. And the majority of all those citations came from our licensing unit, from conducting CE audits. So that's the majority of those citations where they were generated from. And as far as with the Attorney General now, between January 31st of 2020 and through June 30 of 2020, we had 32 accusations go through. And then for cases that were actually transmitted to the Attorney General's office for an accusation were 43 cases. So currently right now pending, we have 109 cases at the Attorney General's office. And so I'll move on to our probationers. Currently, total overall, we have 225 probationers that we're monitoring between the Sacramento office and the Orange office. In the Sacramento office, we have 42 active probationers. We have 16 probationers that are tolling. And when I say these probationers are tolling, means that they're out of state and they're not practicing in the state of California. And Orange office, we have 108 active probationers. We have 5 probationers tolling in that office. And here in our IA unit, we have 49 active probationers and 5 probationers that are tolling. So that ends my portion of the statistics.
Dr. Stewart, I see that Dr. Lai has his hand up.
Dr. Lai?
Thank you. Hi, Carlos. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. One question. Have any of the investigations included COVID-19, or is that Board of Health? Usually a Board of Health violation, or if we find there's a COVID violation, they were open, or they didn't close, or they did, sanitary. Were any of those COVID-19 related?
So with those numbers, we're identifying the complaints that are COVID related. And so with those complaints, like you stated, we did refer them out because we did have resources. So our resources was reaching out to the county health department, whatever the office was located for that particular county, we're referring to them.
Okay.
We're also
so that's
states
all through California, right?
Excuse me?
All through California?
Correct, all through California. So we're making referrals to the county and state public health department.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Dr. Stewart, Dr. Chan's hand is also up, and Dr. Morrow's hand just went up, and we'll go back and see if Dr. Laren also had a comment.
Thank you. Let's proceed.
Am I up?
Dr. Chan? Dr. Chan?
It was very similar to Ross Eli's question, and the question was, and it kind of has to go also with evaluating statistics where this may be a blip. Realize that from March until maybe the end of June, which this data is gathering, the number of complaints might, in context of COVID, drop because offices were shut down. And until the offices are reopened, will there be possibly more complaints moving forward because now the offices are open? So the first question was to ask, and you did answer the question, what is the jurisdiction of the dental board vis-a-vis the County Department of Health and Cal OSHA? And you've kind of answered it with questions with the reference to sanitation. And it was partly in the context also of that same case or similar case in Anaheim where the water lines were contaminated and how the dental board interacted with that scenario. The second part is, again, looking at the statistics. We are looking at maybe a blip where nothing was open. So maybe the new cases didn't emerge and we were seeing a drop until we start to see the emergence of the offices opening and tracking to see, just like with Dr. Lai's question with COVID, how are they related in that? But I have to really give a shout out to your unit, Carlos. How do you do your investigations, your probations, and continue your work when everything is closed? So we have to give a shout out to your guys to continue doing that.
Well, thank you so much for that. So just, we had to obviously we had to adjust. We had to, start performing telephonic interviews. So with the probationers, we started doing telephonic, we started doing emails. And so that's how the investigators are conducting the investigations. And so some of the complaints that we were getting with COVID came in stages. And so when the state initially went into lockdown, dental offices were still able to perform dental procedures for emergency basis. And so we started then getting complaints of perhaps these dental offices were doing regular dental services. So for those type of cases, we were referring them out to the county and state public Department of Health to look into if they were conducting emergency or they were doing regular dental procedures. Then the next stage came in once the reopening plan came for dental offices to resume, open back up. Then that stage is where we started receiving complaints was from staff from dental offices where they felt that it was unsafe for them to return back to work. And again, so we're then referring them to the California Department of Public Health and informing them that they have guidelines established already for the resuming of preventive dental care. So we started referring them back to the California Department of Public Health to ensure them that there were guidelines. And so now the next stage that we moved on to, now that dental offices are open, we're getting the type of complaints now that where they're complaining that front office staff wearing any mask. They do state there's a plexiglass in front of them, but they're not wearing a mask. The complaints is that once they go back to the operatory room, they are wearing masks, but they kind of notice they're not wearing gloves or they're not washing their hands. So the travel restrictions that we have right now with the Department of Consumer Affairs, with those, we've been actually calling them and identifying ourselves, advising them of the complaint, then again, referring them back to the California Department of Public Health to refer to the guidelines.
Dr. Stewart, we have Dr. Morrow in the queue and Dr. Laren in the queue.
Dr. Morrow.
Thank you, Carlos. My question has to do with your Investigative Analysis Unit report relating to the SARS, the subsequent arrest reports. According to the table that you provided to us, there's 384 outstanding complaints total for to date since July. This report is July 15. Could you explain to me a little bit about what is the process in this subsequent arrest reports? And secondly, do you have any information regarding the categories of offenses that the arrest has been based on?
Yes. So the way it's generated is we get notification from the Department of Justice where a licensee has been arrested, they've been fingerprinted, and once they get fingerprinted, that would generate the alert for us where we get what we call subsequent arrest. And so what that entails is that they were fingerprinted, they're arrested, and that entails the police department that arrested them, the county that they were in, the date that they're arrested, and the charges that they're arrested for. And so some of those charges the majority of the charges that we get is DUI. driving under the influence. Those are kind of the majority. The other ones, unfortunately, that we do receive is spousal battery. And so that's our notification once we receive that SAR. And so that gets assigned to the investigative analysis unit, and that's when they start the process of ordering the police records. And so, and we have to wait on the adjudication from the criminal courts in order to get that conviction. And so once we have that, once that case has been adjudicated, we have all the documents now for us to proceed to conduct an investigation, speak with the licensee, get their side of the story, and then we'll submit that to the Attorney General's office for an accusation. And so with the more serious cases has to do with sexual misconduct, the more serious ones, with the notification of the arrest, that's when we go to the courthouse with the Attorney General's office to represent us, so we could get an emergency order to suspend their license until it goes through the to the court system. Once they get convicted, then we'll submit that to the Attorney General's office for an accusation. But they represent us. So if it's a serious felony, something where there's significant patient harm, then that's when we go seek an emergency order at the courthouse with the Attorney General's office representing. So once we collected all the records, that's when we kind of initiate like a full investigation to, I guess, again, speak with the licensee and submit it to the Attorney General.
Okay, thank you very much. That helps.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Morrow. I see Delia, Dr. Lauren has her hand up. Dr. Lauren?
Oh, sorry, I didn't have the microphone. I was concentrating on the little hand. But anyways, Carlos, thank you so much for presenting, giving us that presentation. I wanted to ask you a couple things. I heard you mention the CE audit, that they're getting audits. I just wanted to see how you're doing that. Are you doing random, and what percentage of people do not pass the CE audit? And the second one, I don't know if I should ask that here at this particular time, but I wanted to, I get a lot of questions about the conscious sedation requirements that have been extended, and some dentists don't think that's enough time for them. Like, for example, they might have to renew in November and they still can't go out there because the courses are not being offered. So I wonder if there's going to be any extension on that time. Like I said, I don't know if this is the time to ask, but I know there's some enforcement if it doesn't get reissued. Thank you.
This is Karen. Carlos, if Tina is still on the line, did you want to respond to the CE question? And Dr. Laren, with regard to your comment about conscious sedation, there's a chance that's going to be on the August meeting, but we'll also have another opportunity for you to ask your question when we go over the GACS permit statistics. And if you have no further questions, you can put your hand down.
Well, just the audit question. How many? I wanted to see how that was handled. How if Carlos can mention that. I mean, can explain.
So Tina, are you still on the call?
Yes, this is Tina Valerie. So typically, there aren't a lot of people who fail the CE audit and get issued a formal citation. But as far as the exact number, I don't have that available at the moment, but I could definitely bring that back at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lauren. I see Steve Chan still has his hand up.
Yes, I do. This is Steve. I may be speaking out of turn, but when I first got on the board, I didn't understand the processes of enforcement as vis-a-vis things like peer review through the California Dental Association, criminal proceedings, as well as tort or malpractice proceedings. And I've come to understand that each are independent. So the comment or question that may come up is that we understand that the California Dental Association is considering a reorganization of their peer review system and may indeed dissolve it, where we realize on the dental board that we have only certain jurisdictions. The question that may come is that when and if the California Dental Association ceases its peer review, will we see an uptick of complaints to the dental board? And it's clearly just a projection looking ahead. And that'll have to do with looking at our resources to work through additional complaints.
Carlos, this is Karen. I'll go ahead and respond to that. Dr. Chan, thank you for your question. What's been happening lately at CDA with their peer review is that they're reviewing licensees who have already been disciplined by the board. So I don't know that there would be a lot of concern for perhaps licensees that CDA has seen in their peer review that we don't know about. There'd be no way to know that. But much of their peer review has been of licensees who've already been disciplined by the board.
Thank you for that, Karen. Thank you for that. And then we're going to be looking forward to see if, in fact, again, another trend might happen where they have the complaints have no place to go.
We'll be watching.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chan. Any further board comments, questions? I see no hands up. Let's move on to public comments.
This is the moderator, and thank you, Mr. Board President. I will go ahead and open up the question and answer panel. All right, the question and answer panel is now available. If you would like to make a public comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to the host. We are displaying instructions for your reference, and if you do not see the Q&A panel, please click on the question mark within the square at the lower bottom of your screen. And I do see we have Mary McCune that would like to make a public comment. Mary, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. Please remember you have 2 minutes to speak, and I will give you a 10-second warning. Mary, you've been unmuted.
Hi, this is Mary McCune with the California Dental Association. I just wanted to respond to the last comment around CDA's peer review process. We are in the process of closing down and dismantling the peer review. We are no longer accepting any new cases, but we are in the process of wrapping up any currently open cases. We are still trying to figure out if local dental societies will be opening up their own peer review processes, and we can keep dental board and dental board staff updated about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And this is the moderator. I'm seeing no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
I see Claudia Pohl might have a question. Am I reading that right?
That was, oh, okay. That was from a 11:01. So well, I'll check on Claudia, and then we have Amanda that's now asked to speak. So we'll go with Claudia first. Claudia, you've been unmuted.
No, I have no question. I think that's from before.
All right, thank you for confirming. And now we'll go to Amanda. Amanda, I'll let you know when you've been unmuted. All right, Amanda, you've been unmuted. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you for unmuting me and allowing me to ask a question. I have a question. I'm not sure if I'm asking it at the appropriate time, but I'm thinking that it would be addressed to the enforcement agency. So I have a question. I've been told by a dentist and back office supervisor that if you test positive for COVID and you've done the incubation period and you still test positive, but you are asymptomatic, that you are allowed to return to work. And I'm wondering that they're saying that you're not, you're no longer you can no longer spread the disease. And I'm concerned for patient safety and for my own safety. And I've looked up, through our county's health department to see what the regulation is on that, and I can't seem to find a answer. So I'm wondering if someone could answer that for me or point me in the right direction. That's my question.
Thank you, Amanda, for that question. Do we have anybody who would like to answer that?
I think with that question there is like we can't really answer that question, but I think the best resources again is to reach out to the California Department of Public Health for that type of question, or like I said, the county for that type of question.
Thank you, Carlos. Any further comments?
This is the moderator, and there are no further requests for public comment at this time.
Okay,
Would you like
thank you. We will.
Uh-huh.
Yes, please do. We will now move on to agenda item 10A, diversion program report and statistics. Bernal Baba, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Chief of Regulatory Compliance and Discipline. Are you with us, Bernal?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, good morning. This is Bernie Baba, and I'm presenting agenda item 10A, diversion program and report statistics. This memo provides the statistics for the quarters ending on March 31st, 2020 and June 30th, 2020. The statistics reflect the participant activity within the diversion program. In January, there was one case that was closed, and currently there are 9 participants in the program. Of the 9 current participants, there are 5 enforcement referrals, 3 probation referrals, and 1 self-referral. The next diversion meeting is scheduled for October 14th, 2020, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any board member comments? Questions? Seeing no hands, public comments.
This is the moderator. Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. All right, the question and answer panel is now available. If you would like to make a comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to the host. We are displaying instructions for your reference. If you do not see the Q&A panel, please click on the question mark within the square at the bottom middle of your screen. We'll give you a moment to access this feature. All right, this is the moderator, and I am seeing no requests for public comment at this time. Mr. Board President, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on.
Dr. Stewart, before you move on, this is Karen. I'd just like to make an additional comment. I know some board members have asked for additional information regarding the diversion program, and that will be presented in August. So just so you know, I believe Ms. Burton and Dr. Lai had asked specific questions about the cost of the program and other such questions, and those will be addressed at the August meeting.
Thank you for that, Karen. So let's move on to agenda item 10B, Controlled Substance Utilization Review and Evaluation System Report. Carlos Alvarez.
Hi, I'm back again, Carlos Alvarez. And so I'm here to report agenda item 10B, Controlled Substance Utilization Review and Evaluation System for the Cures. And so currently right now we have 35,586 active licensed dentists right now in the state. And so as of May of 2020, we have 15,812 that had registered with the Cure system. So just from January of 2020 until May of 2020, we have 198 new DDSs or DMDs that have registered with the system. And so with the usage, again, the good news is that the system is being utilized. And as of May of 2020, the statistics go. So in January, the system of the searches for cures, there was 6,052. In February, there's 5,905. In March, 4,289. April, 2,204. And in May, 4,135. So again, there's DDSs and these that are going into the cure system and searching for patient information. Then as the time the system was accessed, that's when the DDS is actually going into the system, logging on in order to conduct the searches. So as you can see, the system was used, but you kind of see that through March through May, the numbers kind of went down. So kind of assuming perhaps maybe because of the COVID. But as it started in January, it was 6,254. Then as we moved on, it just, the time the system was reduced, time was reduced was February 4,148, March 3,486, April 2,645. Then in May, it went to 3,128. Then as you can see, the times, the help desk is where someone needed help with the cure system, where they called the Department of Justice and seek the information. As you can see, it is being used. So in January, it was 147, February, 111, March, 98, April, 89, and May, 98 times that the help desk was utilized. So if you go to page 3, it gives the number of prescriptions filled by schedules. So it starts off by schedules 2, 3, 4, and 5. So kind of overall, starting from January to May, there has been a reduction of prescriptions that have been filled by schedules. So with the Schedule 2s from January to May, there has been like a 13% reduction. And Schedule 2s being the highest for the potential of abuse. That's really good that it is being reduced. Schedule 3s, that has been reduced by 19%. Schedule 4s, that has been reduced by 9%. And the biggest of them all, Schedule 5s, has been reduced by 69%. But those Schedule 5s has to do with cough syrups that contain codeine. So I think that's why the numbers are so significantly reduced on that. That's my report. And if someone has any questions.
Any board member questions or comments?
Dr. Stewart, can you see the hands yet?
Yes, Dr. Lai has a hand up. I see that.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. My question is kind of a general question, Carlos. If a dentist prescribes medication and the pharmacist refuses to fill it, where does it usually go from there?
So to answer your question, the pharmacy, if they refuse to fill it, they actually contact us and we initiate a complaint. And so the pharmacist usually calls us saying that either the prescription did not meet the needs, like for preventive dental care. It wasn't related to dentistry. They might say that the signatures did not match, or the security prescription pads, they didn't have the security prescription pads to order prescription.
So that's an automatic then. That pharmacy will call the state.
Correct. They'll call us and notify us.
Thank you.
I see Dr. Felsenfeld has his hand up. Hi. Good morning, Alan.
Thank you. Carlos, thanks for the report, obviously. It's a comment, and I'm puzzled a little bit. You told us that, in your opinion, the number of accessing and searches were down because we had fewer and fewer patients toward the end of this last, I can't call it a half year, but the March, April, May time. And yet, if you look at the number of prescriptions filled. And yes, they may be down a little bit, but if you start February, March, April, and May across the board, they seem to be fairly consistent. I would have assumed that between the decrease in numbers of patients who come in for elective surgeries, yes, we're doing emergencies, I get it, and also with our training, what CA and other organizations are telling us about not writing for Norco and the like so much because we really don't need it, and it really doesn't happen all the time, at least in our practice. And yet the numbers are pretty much across the board the same at 1.2 million. Do you have any thoughts on that? And there's nothing, and then you really don't know because you don't know what people are writing and why they're writing it. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so with the statistics there, the prescriptions are being filled. Now that's a overall statistics from all the healthcare professionals. So that's from doctor, surgery, optometry, pediatrics, veterinary, medical. So it involves all healthcare professionals.
Okay, so that's not just dentists, and I would hate to think that an optometrist would write for Schedule 2, but okay,
Yeah.
if that's what it is, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Alan. Any further board questions, comments? Seeing none, let's move on to public comments.
This is the moderator. Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will go ahead and open the question and answer panel. All right, the Q&A panel is now available in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. If you would like to make a comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to the host. If you're not seeing the Q&A panel, please click on the question mark within the square at the bottom middle of your screen, and we will give you a moment to access this feature. This is the moderator, and Mr. Board President, I am seeing no requests for public comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome.
I would just throw out the question of a 30-minute lunch recess, and shall we get through agenda item 11? It's 10 minutes to 12, and then and go to lunch. I'd like to hear some thoughts.
For me, we can go through it. It's okay with me.
Keep going.
So Ross has his hand raised.
Let's keep going. Let's keep
Yeah,
going.
we can keep going. To me, it's okay.
Okay, let's keep going, and we may
Dr.
keep
Stewart?
going. What? Yes, Karen.
So I would recommend we at least go through agenda item 11 and then take the 30-minute break. So then there's no break between the examination discussions and moving through. We'll probably take a break this afternoon, but we should be able to get through the remainder of the agenda outside of the legislative discussion pretty quickly. So I would also recommend going at least until noon before we take our break.
Thank you. Then let's move on, and we'll get through agenda item 11, and then we'll take a 30-minute recess so we can get a bite to eat. So report on the July 8, 2020 meeting of the Elective Facial Cosmetic Surgery Permit Credentialing Committee. And discussion and possible action to accept the committee recommendations for issuance of permit. Karen Fisher is taking this one.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. Board members, Dr. Stewart had just asked me to give a very brief summary of the background of the elective facial cosmetic surgery permit. It actually was initiated into statute back in 2006 and became effective January 1st of 2007. So it's been in effect essentially for 13 years. Business and Professions Code Section 1638.1 establishes this permit, and it's for oral and maxillofacial surgeons only, and it allows them the ability with this permit to perform elective facial cosmetic surgery after meeting certain requirements that are established within the statute. So the committee that reviews these applications is appointed by the board, as you know, and they review the qualifications of each applicant for permit. Upon completion of the review of the application, the committee shall make a recommendation to the board on whether to issue or not issue a permit to the applicant. The permit may be unqualified, entitling the permit holder to perform any facial cosmetic surgical procedure authorized by this section, or it may contain limitations if the credentialing committee is not satisfied that the applicant has the training or competence to perform certain classes of procedures, or if the applicant has not requested to be permitted for all procedures authorized in this section. So the committee consists of 5 members. 3 of them are oral surgeons. One of those 3 is licensed by the medical board and should be a physician and surgeon. The other 2 committee members, one is a physician and surgeon with a specialty in plastic and reconstructive surgery, and one is a physician and surgeon with a special, and here's my favorite word, otolaryngology, and both need to maintain active status at an acute care hospital. So your committee that you have, your 5 members of this committee have reviewed 2 applications for Dr. Francesca Verratti de Paulo and Elise Ahan. They have both applied for unlimited permits in Category 1 and Category 2. Both have completed all the requirements. And just to go through what the requirements are generally, it's a proof of completion of an oral and maxillofacial surgery residency program accredited by the Commission on Dental Accreditation of the American Dental Association. All have to have active privileges at a hospital, and they have to submit 10 operative reports that are reflected of the procedures they would like to have the permit in. With that said, again, these 2 applicants have been reviewed by the committee, and the committee recommends the board issue a permit for unlimited Category 1 and Category 2 procedures to both these candidates.
Thank you for that background, Karen. Much appreciated. So I think before we go to comments, I think we need a motion and a second.
I make a motion, Lenny.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
We have 2 hands up, Dr. Felsenfeld and Fran Burton.
I think that we both had our hands up before the motion was made. So I would move Burton and second Felsenfeld.
I'll take that. Thank you. Thank you. I'll try to do a better job of scrolling up and down and following these hands. So we have a first and a motion and a second. Are there any board member comments? Seeing none, are there public comments?
This is the moderator. Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the question and answer panel. All right, the Q&A panel is now available. If you would like to make a comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it. If you're not seeing the Q&A panel, click on the question mark within the square at the bottom middle of your screen, and we are displaying instructions for your reference. We'll give you a moment. This is the moderator, and I'm seeing no requests for comment at this time. Mr. Board President, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Board Secretary, will you please call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item?
This is the board secretary, Joanne Pacheco. The board accept the committee's recommendation, and I will call the roll. Burton?
Burton, aye.
Burton, aye. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Lai?
Yes.
Lai, aye. Laren?
Larin, aye.
Laren, aye. Mackenzie?
Yes.
Mackenzie, aye. Medina? Medina? Morrow?
Morrow, aye.
Morrow, aye. Olagi?
Yes.
Olagi, aye. Pacheco, aye. Stewart?
Stewart, aye.
Stewart, aye. You?
You, yes.
You, aye. Medina?
Aye.
Medina, aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then I think we've agreed to adjourn for 30 minutes for some refreshment. So we'll be back, what, about 12:30?
That'll work. Thank you, Dr. Stewart.
Thank you. See you at 12:30.
And this is the moderator. I'll make sure everyone is properly muted. Just a reminder, when you're muted, your microphone is red.